Welcome back. It is Wednesday night, a little different time, but it is NBA Finals time, and we're talking about different teams for a championship. Not what the NBA wanted, not what they expected, but that's what we got. I got my co-host with me here. Let's be frank. Hey, how you doing this evening?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Last time we met, we actually predicted the scenario of Miami versus the Nuggets. And we were pretty bold on that stance. We didn't even really consider the matchup Celtics and Nuggets. We were focused mostly on the Miami and, of course, Denver Nuggets. What a finish that series was, man.
Man, who are you telling? Let's just glimpse over Game 6 real quick, because Game 6 was definitely a heartbreaker for me as I was watching Saturday night, and I was like, I had to rewind it a couple times to see, like, oh, that's in. Did you have any issues with the defensive and defensive play calling Eric Spoelstra had at that last possession there, or do you think it was done right?
No, it was done right. I mean, of course, we can't just pin it on one play. I mean, that whole game, Jimmy Bucket struggled to get his scoring going early in the game. That first half, he had only scored like 5 points in the first half.
It was
and it was a constant battle. They would get in within a couple points, and then they would let the Celtics pull away to another 10-point lead, and it was just constant all the way into the fourth quarter. And I had told my son, I said, if the Celtics or the Heat are not leading by halftime, I said they're more than likely they're going to lose. They're not going to win this game. And I said we were messaging back and forth. I said they need to tighten it up on defense. They need to get some defensive stops. They need to and convert some of those defensive stops into baskets, because they had not been doing that. They had some defensive stops early in that game. However, they couldn't capitalize on them. And every time they got a chance to get down, it was every shot that I saw was in and out. Just go in and out. I was like, man, they cannot buy a bucket tonight. It was just that type of night for the Heat offensively.
I definitely agree with you on that. It was super frustrating to see just how Jimmy was not a factor in the first half whatsoever. It was frustrating to see that. Bam Adebayo was the same way. Role players were trying to keep them within it. But what I continue to notice with Miami is the defensive rebounding. I feel like it's a concern for Miami, especially they could easily have won Game 6, with Jimmy being fouled at the 3-point line, which was kind of a wild play, I thought, second off, and then hitting those clutch free throws at the end of the fourth quarter to bring it within one. I think says everything we need to know about Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, of course. I knew he was going to be a factor at some point in the game. It wasn't like he was not going to be a non-factor. However, the first half was just very concerning with only, 5 points or whatever it was in that first half. It was not the spark they needed. They needed to get out rolling like they did in Game 7.
Yes.
But in Game 6, they needed that roll to, they were at home and they were going to go ahead and finish up business there at home. And look forward to heading over to Denver, but that wasn't the case in that game. Again, like I said, what looked like to me, they had a hard time converting on those defensive stops. The offense would stall out with in and out buckets. Offensive rebounds were not there. Defensive rebounds as well. They allowed too many opportunities for Boston to have those second chance opportunities, and they made them pay every time they got an offensive rebound.
No, 100%. I was all over social media, day after you talked about Game 6. I think I predicted it correctly when we talked about Miami need to come out with force and urgency, and they had to have a double-digit spread in order to kind of keep that pressure on Boston. Do you feel like with them going back to the Garden, do you feel like that kind of flipped the role back on Boston, but then also like how Pat Riley is and Eric Spoelstra, that team is, where they kind of announced before then they'd already booked their flight to go directly from Boston to Denver.
I didn't want you to gloss over that point. That's a confidence mood. That psychological warfare that they were playing with Boston, saying we're so confident that we're going to win. We're going to go ahead and buy our tickets now, book our flights to Denver, knowing that we're going to put you guys away tonight in your own building. And we saw that swagger right from the start of Game 7 with Miami heading into heading into Boston, and just laying the smackdown of on Boston, and to the point where they were getting so frustrated, Boston's players were, that they were not effective and able to close that gap. They were dominated from the start of the tip-off to the end of the game on Game 7. It was just a brilliantly played by the coaching staff. Pat Riley, I don't know how much of a hand he had in all of that as well, but it was a brilliant plan to get into your opponent's heads before Game 7 had even started.
No, I 100% agree with you. Caleb Martin, did his thing like he always does. And there's a play that not a lot of people are talking about, which is William Highsmith. He's the alternate center for Bam Adebayo. He actually played very well in that game and was very because Bam got into foul trouble early, which was kind of crazy to kind of see that, but showing that the defense really started to increase a lot more when Highsmith got in there and started to roll, and it looks like they got more aggressive on defense.
Yeah, that obviously led to the blowout that they had there in Game 7. Because of that aggressiveness, they were able to assert their will on Boston. Boston was unprepared for that. And you also have to factor in, again, Miami had nothing to lose heading into this game again anyway. They were the 8th seed. Everyone was counting them out anyway. All the pressure was on Boston to win that game. All the pressure was on them. They were supposed to make history by being the first team to come back from being down 3-0. It was at home, Boston Arena, all the majestic things about Boston and their championships, all the banners lined up in the rafters of how great that organization is. For them to be put away at home spoke huge on the preparation the Miami Heat had heading into that game, and that swagger, that chip on their shoulder, saying, "Hey, we're the party crasher. We're not going to let you step over us to get to the finals. That's for us."
And I think you said it perfectly. It was all on Boston, going back to there. And the crazy part is everyone talks about, Miami being the 8th seed. It's almost like, they more people are talking about what seed they are when, like, if you think about the NFL playoffs, like when you're in the playoffs, everyone says when you're clicking in the NFL
0-0,
0-0, bro. So
yeah.
If you look at Miami, they had the hardest test going through the East. They took the long road. They took the scenic route. They decided to lose against Atlanta, against Atlanta to play in, and they had a second play in against Chicago. I saw that difference when we lost in our first playing tournament with Kyle Lowry scoring over 35 points. That showed me as a fan, but as in looking at it on the broad side out is. Kyle Lowry and that team is meant to do bigger things, and they weren't. Even though they didn't play well that game, they still didn't give up. They still kept moving, and then they go in. They go into Chicago, take out Chicago, and then go into Milwaukee and knock off Milwaukee, which was favored to go to the NBA Finals, and then go to New York and beat New York on their home court. Jimmy Butler had sprinkles. Game 2 still played majority of that game, and then was out Game 3. Came back Game 4, and then goes to Boston and, goes up 3-0, and, they're losing their footing. Celtics are trying to roll, and what do they do in Miami fashion? They shut the door on them, and they said, "Hey, we're going to the NBA Finals." Yeah. So I think that's a testament to their culture, to, Udonis Haslem being that anchor that he's been for over 20 years in that organization, and I think it's overglossed and not looked at enough as showing the stability, but also how much Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley bleed that culture, and they take care of their own, and they understand that, hey, when you're a leader on the court and you decide to retire, we're going to take care of you, and we're going to move you up to the front office, just like they did with Juwan Howard when he retired, and Alonzo Mourning as well. And as we get to see Udonis Haslem go to another NBA Finals and possibly walk away with the 4th ring.
Yeah. Yeah, no, most definitely. You said it pretty well there, and I look forward to seeing what Miami does in the finals. And I gave my prediction last time we were on. I said Miami makes it to the finals. They're taking it at 6. It's going to be kind of reminiscent of the Bucks championship a few years ago. I see them being able to to take off Denver. I think this rest for Denver might work against them, especially in that first game, coming back a little rusty. And of course, I think Miami has the advantage in that because of them just playing and they're well rested. They were just tested by one of the toughest teams in the NBA heading into the finals.
So do you think going to game?
To be honest with you, I think that was the finals. What we saw the play
really
in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals was the finals. What we're going to see happen here, we're going to see the coronation of Jimmy Butler leading his team to a championship. And no disrespect to Denver or anything, but I just don't think they're going to be on the winning side of this. There's too much momentum coming in with Miami heading into this series.
And not counting that, majority, if almost every person on that squad is either an NBA champion or has already been to an NBA Finals.
Right.
And like you predicted when we first started this, which is what you told me earlier, and we talked about this a long time ago, if Miami would have went to the NBA Finals against the Lakers, which they did, but if they wouldn't have played in the bubble, they would have won the NBA championship.
Yes.
So this could be, and I'm on the same boat with you. I'm on that same boat with you. I believe Jimmy is going to lead that team with Caleb Martin and the rest of that squad, and Tyler Hero is going to be coming back. And I'm a little apprehensive about Tyler Hero because he's just come back from injury. I don't know when they're going to put him in the rotation, but I think this is their time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think you're right. This is their time. It's something we talked about, the last couple times we've met up talking about the NBA and talking about the Heat path to the championship. And of course, I've said this many times. I'm not a homer for the Miami Heat. That's you. But for me, watching it as this from the outside in, I think they're playing the best basketball right now in the NBA.
So going on to Denver, so as we know, Denver is that same team that did lose to Los Angeles in the bubble. Jokic was a very small player still then. Jamal Murray was just coming out of his shell. They swept the Los Angeles Lakers. I think I like Jokic. I think he's a great player. I've been going back and forth with a lot of people on Twitter about it. I just don't think that team was respected going through the playoffs like they did. I mean, being the number one seed and being, so dominant in the West, I don't think they were respected at all as they went through their series.
And they weren't. But of course, being the number one seed, you are expected to make a deep playoff run. You're expected to, if not by your fan base, to be in the finals when the dust clears and being a number one seed in the playoffs, because that's what you worked so hard for in the regular season to obtain. And for them, thumping the LA Lakers, as much as joy as I had seen LeBron James lose and in that fashion, we have to look at the LA Lakers as a team itself. They weren't, if they would have made it to the finals, I don't think they beat Miami. They'd only beat the Celtics. If it was the Celtics that were in there, the Heat, the Lakers were on borrowed time. So to see them as they played through the playoffs and stuff, their clock was going to strike midnight, and it did pretty quickly once the Western Conference Finals started.
Do you think this is possibly, and I hate to kind of get ahead of myself here, but the way that these teams are constructed, do you feel like more teams might be looking at this upcoming NBA draft probably a lot differently due to the fact because of that tired notion that I know Eric Spoelstra is very tired of, which is having those undrafted players that have already been to the finals. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know we touched on this last week when we talked about that whole notion of being an undrafted team and how the NBA may still approach heading into this next season. Especially we've had some small market teams win the championships by building from within, good free agency moves, not so flashy at times with free agency, but made solid moves and obviously have paid off winning championships. I think the NBA has to evaluate itself at this point and understand that maybe constructing these super teams isn't the best model moving forward, because you get a short-term success, you get that championship maybe that 1 year, but that's all you get out of it. And there's a complete rebuilding for the next decade versus where you actually start building these teams from up from the ground up, you're able to see more of a longevity and a higher ceiling in order to win championships and make deep playoff runs and be competitive. So I would like to see the NBA look at that model more than just trying to put together these super teams, thinking that they're going to be able to win championships that way. And we talked about them maybe having to revisit the issue of how much time these superstars play in these NBA games. We talked about them only playing, up to under 65% of the season most times. And, that isn't entertaining to begin with, to start with, but it impacts your team chemistry. It impacts the ability that you're able to create that momentum and things like that. So hopefully they'll look at that area and adjust not only there in the way they build these teams, but also what the expectation will be for players playing in these systems. Hey, you got to play more than 40 games a season.
So, Eric Spoelstra considered the top coach in the league right now?
Yeah, I told you this last week. Yeah, the top coach. I think he's probably been the top coach for the last few years. And again, I told you he didn't get enough credit. It was overshadowed because of the dream team or whatever they dubbed themselves there in Miami when LeBron was there. And, they discounted those championships from Spoelstra because they said, oh, he only won that because obviously, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And that's the only reason they won championships. And this championship will solidify that he is able to win without having a super team put together for him and actually play good basketball, solid basketball because of his vision and, of course, his coaching.
And I think you said it correctly. And I think for me, watching Eric Spoelstra in his press interview after the game, he was pretty emotional. And I think that's a credit to him, obviously making it to the bubble. But I think this run right here meant more to him because he had almost all of his players available, but then also too, like, it wasn't the easiest road, like we just talked about, to get to the finals. They went through every possible scenario that they could possibly go through and some of the toughest defenses in the league to get to where they are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was one of those people that really discounted his coaching ability when he had the dream team put together or whatever with him. I was like, look at this dude. He's just there to make LeBron look good or whatever. LeBron make him look good. I said, this guy isn't really a coach. But after, studying and watching him after all of that, he's the real deal. He was the real deal then. He just didn't get the credit for any of that. Or if he did, it was very little.
Yeah, it was very little as I've watched Miami, going through, since early 2000s I've been watching Miami. And here's a fun fact, actually. Miami actually has the most finals appearances since 2006 to any other team right now. They're at 7 appearances already.
Did not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
They're at 7. That's more than Cleveland. That's more than Golden State. Like, Lakers, like everyone, and it's pretty wild. And that started with Dwayne Wade in 2006 when they went to the finals with Shaq.
Yeah,
and to where they are today.
That's when it was. Wow, that was a long time ago. I feel old now. That's a lot. I didn't come on the show to be making me feel old.
I'm sorry. So let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart and yours as well. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors and what is going on with them. Almost like a Chicago Bulls 1998 final last dance to, GM.
The only difference is they're not winning a championship on their last run there.
No. So with Bob Meyer stepping down and saying, hey, I'm no longer going to be the GM, how does it work for the players?
I think for the players, it's a free game now. I think they're going to be looking to maybe fulfill some of their long dreams that they may have had to go play with certain players like Draymond and his love affair with LeBron, going and playing with him. And so you can tell his grandchildren he played with the best basketball player of all time in his mind. And I think this opens the door for Steve Kerr to maybe return to the Spurs. Don't forget, he won 2 championships with the Spurs. He won a huge clutch 3-point play in 2000. What year was that? 2009. with in the Western Conference Finals that helped propel them to the championship. I can't remember the exact year, but he played an instrumental part in that. Maybe it was a little earlier than that. Maybe about 2000. I have to look it up.
I think it was 2001.
Yep. Thank you. Maybe it was 2001. But yeah, so I mean, he was an integral part in that, and I think that was he may be returning back home to the Spurs, and home in a way that he was a player there for a few years. It would be no different than him returning to the Bulls and coaching.
So
that would be interesting.
It would be. So if Steve Kerr does decide to leave along with Bob Meyer obviously leaving, where does that leave Golden State? Are they back in full rebuild?
Yes, they are. Yeah, I think they. I think they'll look to offload some players and
Draymond.
He'll be an easy one to offload because he wants to leave.
but do you think with all the cap things that are getting ready to happen, because they've with the new CBA rules and stuff like that, like there's a lot of they can't do certain things with the cap anymore when it comes to players. Like it's going to be very restrictive now, and trying to build those super teams like once how Kevin Durant came to Golden State, how they were able to kind of just do some funny numbers to make it work.
Right. For that year.
Right. And now, secondly, another rule change that's getting ready to happen is for 2024-2025 is if you challenge a play and you actually get that challenge right, then you actually secure another challenge. So you would have 2 challenges, just like the NFL.
Okay, yeah.
So which is great. So with the new Spurs Mwambe guy that
when you say that, it reminds me of the Lion King in the opening scene when he holds up somebody. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So
Mwambe.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of hype on him. Does he make an impact right away on the Spurs?
Depends on coaching. Depends who the coach is going to be. Depends on what type of system they're going to run. So I'll reserve any type of prediction for now until we figure out how the coaching is going to shake out.
If you're Boston, what do you do with going? You go to the finals the year prior, and then the year prior to that, obviously you lose to Jimmy Butler. And then, it's been a back and forth game for the past 4 years between the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics. What do you do with Boston?
They'll have to examine their contracts, examine who they can keep, who has to go. You mentioned before we went on air talking about Tatum and
Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown both are eligible for max contracts that would eat up $600 million. And I was blown away. I was astonished when you said that. I was like, I got into the wrong business. I should have been an NBA player. Anyway.
So with that, it's kind of crazy how certain teams, when you're eligible, there's the max and then there's that super max. Mm-hmm. And it's but why?
well, it goes back to whether or not the individual is more concerned with winning championships or they're more concerned with getting paid. And we touched on the subject when we were talking about the NFL, talking about some of the players and stuff like that. Where is their priorities? What are they looking to do? Many times you look at some the older superstars who would rather not play for much money at all because they've earned quite a bit already, and they want to look to solidify their legacy. Possibly win a Super Bowl on the way out. And you have to think, look at these 2 young guys, and I call them young because they're still relatively young, especially in the NBA. Have they felt like they've made enough money where they can say, hey, we're going to cut back on our contract so we can maybe start building, prepare for another championship run? Or are they going to say, hey, no, I want that Supermax contract because that's what I earned or that's what I deserve. So it'll be interesting to see how those 2 superstars in Boston approach it.
No, I think you hit it correctly too. And I think what's really overshadowed is depth. Having depth on your bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really overlooked when it comes to building those teams because look at Milwaukee has a great bench.
Yes.
You know, a bunch of guys that are seasoned individuals, but obviously, you know, ran up with a hot Jimmy Butler. But just in general, like just seeing that team, even the same thing with the Knicks. You know, the Knicks, you know, got a pretty decent bench together. I think when you have to have that mixture sometimes of that older veteran and that a little bit younger players that you can help hopefully build around.
Yeah. Yeah, no, most definitely. Again, that goes right back to the conversation we had last week where we talked about accountability and mentorship in the NBA and how many times it's a lot lacking as far as having that mentor on the bench or mentor on the team, player-wise. That is a mature player that can help guide the younger guys.
Okay, I think you hit it correctly, and I think like when it comes to those type of things, like it is way overlooked and way overshadowed because like with just the construct of how teams are, I feel like everyone's like on a time clock of like, oh, like they have to win now. And if you think about it, like, you know, Jimmy Butler's like bounced around and he's now that guy where like people are like, oh, like he's the guy. But if you look how he played in Chicago with a young Derrick Rose, and then how he played with the Timberwolves, and then how he played with Philly, and then now he's down in Miami, like
I kind of lost track of Jimmy Butler after he left Chicago. I thought he was pretty much washed up after that.
You know, I remember watching him in the playoffs when they played against Miami. When actually Derrick Rose tore his knee up, in a which really puzzled me because it was in a time of a game that he shouldn't have been in. They were already up. They were already going to win the game. He was in there in the last 4 minutes, and you know, but like you know, anybody says if an injury is going to happen, it's going to happen regardless if you're in the game or not.
Right.
So with that, I think Jimmy Butler fits. I think Udonis Haslem's comments were, you know, having Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry coming back next year, like they're going to be the anchor for with Jimmy Butler to carry that team on. And it was pretty funny because during the comments, actually, Jimmy Butler didn't even want the Eastern Conference Championship trophy. He Bam wanted to give it to him, and Jimmy's like, "Nah, I'll get the next one."
Yeah,
which he meant obviously
the championship
O'Brien trophy. Yeah. Any thoughts on the Eastern Conference on MVP on who got it, which obviously was Jimmy Butler. A lot of people thought Caleb Martin should have deserved it due to the fact because he was a very valuable player in it, or do you think it's kind of popularity sometimes?
It's a little popularity sometimes. I think Butler deserves it. I mean, he is shown to have been a great leader all the way through the playoffs thus far, and even in the season. So yeah, most definitely, I think he deserves it. Whether or not he feels he deserves it or not, but I think he does, just based off of that. And I think that as we see him lead his team next tomorrow, June 1st, yep. Already, I can't believe it's already here. Has him into Denver. I think we're going to see big things from Jimmy. Not that we already haven't seen big things, but we're going to see him take care of some unfinished business, and that is win that championship.
Hey, I mean, even though when they played in the bubble, he took the Lakers to 6 games.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's not afraid of the spotlight. Yeah, the guy's ready to roll.
Yeah.
Bold prediction for Game 1?
Blowout. Miami rolls in there and packs them up the first game, puts them on their heels.
Wow. And the funny part that you did say that is that obviously Miami has not lost a Game 1 since the NBA playoffs have started, actually.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my bold prediction. They go in there and take care of business, blow out, win by 15-20.
And do you think Eric Spoelstra will be the X factor for the NBA Finals?
Yes, just for the simple fact that he is going to have his team prepared for every single game. They've gone through every scenario at this point through this playoff run, so his team knows how to react in every situation now.
Alrighty, and the fun fact is that the Godfather, Pat Riley, has been in 29% of the NBA Finals.
That's a crazy stat.
It's a fun fact stat. Yeah. I was pretty wild when I saw it. I was like, wow.
It's not as wild as the NFL likes to get with their stupid stats. It's a Tuesday and Brady took a shower on Tuesday morning. That means he's never lost on a Sunday when he's taking a shower on a Tuesday morning.
Those are the. You're right. You're 100% right. So we are looking at.
How does that even factor in?
I don't know. Those are the weird statistical stats. But Frank has the Miami Heat winning in 6 games.
I do.
It actually would work out perfect because that means they would be back in South Beach.
But then again, knowing that they were like, we don't want to win at home. We want to win on their home court. Embarrassing.
You know, they tend to like to do that. And I don't know why, but they do.
Yeah.
And being the loser of the NBA Finals and losing it on your court, that's gotta sting differently.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we got for you guys today. Let us know what you guys' predictions are on the NBA Finals. Let us know if we're wrong. Let us know if we're crazy. It's okay. We're still going to continue to do this. That's all right. Miami, we'll take game 1 as well. I think it's going to be about a 10-point digit game difference. Look for Jimmy Butler to do his thing. Obviously, go check out our affiliates, Apex Predators Outfitters. Use Jive Turkey 65, and also Hill and Firearm Solutions for your firearm solutions. So let us know. Let's be frank. Where can they find you again? As I know you're doing all these crazy things, and you got your new thing dropping tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, my new series is dropping over on both my channels over there on the Let's Be Frank and Uniquely Us. So if you're looking for some good faith-based content, check me out. I produce content every single day. And I think it will be very encouraging for you. So check me out. And I like doing this because it's a side thing for me and my bro to hang out and talk a little bit about sports. He's way more engaged than I am, way more, way smarter than I am in a lot of this stuff, but I like to play along. So,
hey, you can check me on the Twitter because I am on there furiously during a game.
That he is. I can vouch for that.
Well, thanks you guys. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. You guys have a great day, and let us know about those finals picks. Thanks, guys.